What's going on YouTube? Today we're taking a look at an awesome plug-and-play solution that's going to work on all major US carriers. This is the InvisaGIG 5G modem, and it's going to allow you to connect to all of those beautiful towers no matter where you are. So if you're a road warrior, you live that nomadic lifestyle, you're all about that camping life, you're all about the outdoors, but you still want to have contact with the world around you, the InvisaGIG 5G is going to allow you to do that. Now the InvisaGIG 5G is also a great way to kind of plug this in. Maybe you're a trucker and you want to just plug this into your rig. It's a great way to do that because I know T-Mobile recently announced their roaming plan when it comes to their home internet service. And I think that's like $160 a month. That is just insane. That's a little bit ridiculous. All of these companies try and charge you a little bit more for that hotspot nomadic feature, and I'm just not down with that. So if you're interested in this product, all you really have to do is buy an additional SIM. I think on my T-Mobile plan, I can get an unlimited SIM for like $40 extra. I would just do that, guys. You plug it into here. It's not going to use hotspot data. It's going to use actual internet data from your phone. So it's kind of tricking these carriers to thinking that it's plugged into a cell phone. Great way to get a cheap plan on the go. Great way to get a cheap unlimited roaming anywhere around the US type of plan. So don't really fall for T-Mobile's gimmicks of, hey, we're going to give you the 5G modem, the home internet service, but because you're taking it throughout the 50 states, we're going to charge you 4 times more the price. I ain't down with that, and you shouldn't be too. And again, it does work with all major carriers and even supports Band 71 on T-Mobile. It supports 4G and 5G carrier aggregation. I am super happy with this ever since I've installed it. I've been getting over gigabit speeds. For more information, I'll leave some links down below, and I got a coupon code for you guys as well. So if you are interested in the InvisaGIG 5G, I can save you a little bit of coin. I like saving you some coin when I can. What I like about the InvisaGIG 5G here is, number one, you see you have these beautiful antennas, but if you already have an external antenna, all you have to do is remove the paddle antennas from the side of the device, and you'll see an SMA connector right here. So this is going to work perfectly with the Waveform Quad Mini, the Waveform Quad Pro, or any external antenna solution that you might have. So you don't need to connect an external antenna. You definitely get some really fast speeds just by having these paddle antennas installed. Now, a couple things I want to mention right off the bat. This is not a router. This is not a Wi-Fi access point. This is going to provide access to these beautiful towers around you. And in order to provide internet access to your devices, you can plug directly into the Ethernet port right here, or you can set up an external router like this travel router that I have from GLINet. And what I like about this travel router is it also has a 2.5 gig port on the back. So if you theoretically want to get faster speeds, having a 2.5G port is the way to go. It's going to get rid of that barrier that T-Mobile is giving us. So that's just one thing I want to let you guys know about, is it is not a router. You have to provide your own. And if you already have your home router or office router, just plug in the Ethernet port directly into your router, whether it's a big boy or small travel router like this, and you'll provide internet access to all of your devices. But chances are, guys, if you're watching this video, you're probably pretty comfortable with networking, and you're probably pretty comfortable with tinkering. But if you're not, don't worry, plug and play solution. You basically just have to insert your SIM card right on the side here, and you're all good to go. It's configured to be a plug and play solution. But I'm going to show you some of the more advanced settings like tower locking, like band selection. So you can get rid of those slower bands if you notice your gateway is kind of tending more towards the slower bands than the faster 5G bands in your area. So band locking is important. Tower locking is also really good. And there's some other nice features that I like about the InvisaGIG 5G as well. But enough talk about it, guys. Let's do some speed tests. I'm going to show you what I've been getting. And I have been getting gigabit speeds on the InvisaGIG 5G. And I'm also going to show you how to configure it because there are some pretty cool configuration files as well. But let's get into it. Check out the InvisaGIG 5G together and see what it's all about. Before I go ahead and test out the InvisaGIG with my 5G card, let's just go ahead and do a base speed test on my Pixel 8 Pro here and see what type of speeds we're going to get. So let's see what T-Mobile's pushing today. Actually, some really nice speeds. Just hit over a gig. Super nice. So that's actually a really good speed test. Here's my latency on the bottom. And my upload, let's see what kind of upload speeds we're going to get. But 900 is really good. I'm happy with 900 for sure. Upload, not so much, but let's just go ahead and do one more for our base test once again. Then I'm going to pop out my 5G card, put it right in here, and we'll do another speed test together. So yep, definitely getting some really good speeds from T-Mobile. And they just dropped a little bit. Nature of 5G, what can I tell you? So it's still pretty decent at 650. Let's see if we get up to 700. 690, and let's go ahead and see once again my upload. So upload is about 50. So now let's just swap out my SIM card and plop it into the InvisaGIG 5G here. On the side of the InvisaGIG, you do have your SIM card slot, and they do give you different adapters depending on what type of SIM card you have. I'm using a nano SIM at the moment, so pretty easy to just plop on in just like that. And you want to install it with the chip face down. The next thing we have to do is connect this to an Ethernet source. So I'm going to use that travel router that I showed you a little bit earlier on. I'll leave some links to this down in my description. And this also does have a 2.5 gig WAN port. Super cool. GLInet is definitely on their game. So let's just go ahead and plug in my little travel router here. So now I'm connected to the InvisaGIG 5G with my travel router right there. Let's go ahead and do a speed test and see what type of speeds we're going to get. About 110. So here's my initial speed test after connecting the InvisaGIG 5G. You can see it's a little bit slower. Now again, it does depend on the tower you're connected to. It depends on a whole bunch of things. So let's kind of just move that around. I'm going to do another couple tests. I'm going to connect an external modem. But let's just kind of see what speeds we're getting. About 150 right now. And there we go. Speeds are getting a little better. So I'm actually holding my InvisaGIG right by the window to get a little bit of a better connection. Now putting my InvisaGIG right by the window, you can see my speeds are pretty much at that 600 range that they were just by using my cell phone. And let's take a look at my loaded and unloaded. Much, much better than before. And let's see what my upload gets to. Upload speed, it's about the same, but you can see placement is key when it comes to these 5G accessories. So don't get discouraged if you just pick it up once and plug it in. You really got to play with that placement. So about 52, that's about the same. Let's go ahead and do one more speed test. And yep, really fast speeds. 630, so definitely on par with just using my cell phone, but the pings are a lot better. And my upload seems to be a lot better this time as well. One of the cool things about the InvisaGIG is you can actually lock a tower, and we're going to go into the configuration as well. So right now you saw by placing this closer to the window, I got a different tower than before. If you find the tower that works best for you, lock onto that tower, and you're going to maintain that speed. But let's go ahead now and we're going to connect it to an external antenna. We're actually going to connect it to my T-Mobile home internet service. Yes, this will work with T-Mobile's home internet service. You can select that APN, and it also does work with regular SIM cards as you saw, and it's not going to use up your hotspot data. It uses regular mobile data. Another reason why you want to pick up the InvisaGIG 5G, I mean, there's a ton of reasons, am I right? You got that super fast 5G chip inside. Qualcomm's finest and best chip to date, so you're getting super fast speeds just like you would on a modern flagship. Let's head over to my home internet service. All right, I've just connected the InvisaGIG to my T-Mobile home internet gateway. Let's go ahead and do a speed test on my home server just to kind of see what speeds we're going to get. And right off the bat, with zero configuration, I am getting some super fast speeds. 1.8 gigabit down. Again, thanks to that 2.5 gig port, you are going to get faster speeds from T-Mobile's gateway. The gateway is limited to a gig. Now, again, I'm a little bit spoiled right now. Most of my speeds from T-Mobile have been around the 900 mark since I've gotten my external antenna. And I'm super happy to see that my speeds with the InvisaGIG are just as good. Actually, they're a lot better. Let's run one more speed test just to kind of show you guys. And then I'm going to show you which tower I am connected to. So you can see my speed, 1.4. Now it dropped. Again, nature of the beast when it comes to 5G connectivity. There it is, guys. But you did see I was definitely at that 1 gig mark. A little bit faster. I hit that 2.2 mark. T-Mobile was probably like, oh, wait a minute. This is home internet. Let's go ahead and slow them down a little bit. And let's just see my latency. Here's my latency right down there. About normal with T-Mobile. My upload, about decent, about 50. There's a lot that you can do with the InvisaGIG 5G that puts 5G in your hands, that really gives you full control over how you're connected to your mobile network. So I just want to go over some of the settings that I think are most important. So what I like about the InvisaGIG 5G configuration page is it might look like it's difficult because it is text-based, but trust me, it's really simple. They've made it in such a way that anybody can set this up. So don't worry about it being text-based and not having pretty pictures and whatnot. You'll still be able to really get through and figure out which settings you need to figure out for yourself. So right now, this is like the login page. So let's just go to modem info. And if you click on the modem info, you're going to see everything about, well, your modem and how it's connected to the 5G tower. So right now, I am connected to T-Mobile. So here we go. I am using this with my T-Mobile SIM card. Now, I am not using my home internet SIM card at the moment. This is a legit 5G card that I pulled from one of my phones. So matter of fact, let's just go ahead and do a speed test really quickly. Now, again, the nature of the beast with 5G is you got to play around with the antennas, and it depends where you are and all of that good stuff. I've already shown you that you can get some really fast speeds with the InvisaGIG 5G if you put a little work, put a little effort into figuring out how to position these antennas. So this is the modem info page. You really don't need to go into that unless you want to see what you're connected to. And this is also your live signal page. So what I like about this live signal page is you get real-time information about your signal quality. So here's all of your information about how you're connecting to that tower. And it's a great way for you to go in and kind of reposition the antennas. I recommend using the Waveform Quad Mini. If you're more of the on-the-go type of person, that Quad Mini is an excellent antenna. For those of you that want to get it more as a fixed type of solution for your internet, I also recommend the Waveform Quad Pro. Both of those external antennas play really nicely with the InvisaGIG 5G, and it's just going to boost your overall signal, boost your overall speed. Of course, you do not have to use any type of external antennas, but when you do, you're able to boost the signal, you're able to boost the quality, and boosting signal and quality also boosts your speed, which I'm a huge fan of. Now, once you go into the configuration page, you get a lot more information here. So I'm just going to go through them. There's not that many that you need to really play around with, but one of them that I really like. Now, we've already gone over modem info and live signal, but one of them that I really like is called the network mode. So if you go into network mode here, you can really choose how you want the InvisaGIG to connect to those towers. Now, if you're in an area that gets really strong 5G, you might want to only use 5G signals. And if you're in an area that has LTE and 5G, or maybe you don't even have 5G where you are and you just really want to narrow down that LTE signal, there is an LTE only option. So again, you get a lot of configuration on the InvisaGIG 5G, and that's what I really like about it. If you spend some time, I'm going to say this one more time, if you just spend time with this and don't get frustrated with all the restarts and all of the tinkering, you are going to get an excellent speed. And the benefit to doing that is, let's say it takes you an hour, 2 hours, maybe a little bit more depending on your skill level. Once you're done, you are done. You do not have to go in and tinker with this at all. Once you find that perfect antenna location, once you tinker with all of the settings and you get an amazing speed, you never have to touch it again. But anyway, let's go back to some of the settings here. And again, this is more tinkering than you're going to have to do. And this is putting 5G in your hands. You are in control of your 5G network. You have an option to choose which bands you want this to connect to. This is a great option if you're in some area which is kind of in between signals and your InvisaGIG 5G just is being stubborn and just wants to connect to a band that's giving you slower speeds. You can erase that band altogether and not have the InvisaGIG 5G even touch those bands. Let's go in. I'm just going to show you how to do it. So if we wanted to go into the 5G bands, for example, let's just go ahead and click on option 3 here. So you can see all of the available bands are right at the top, right over there. Now all you have to do is choose which bands you don't want to have connected. So if I want to get rid of, say, band 13, just for an example, all I have to do is move band 13, click on enter, and now you can see at the top here, band 13 has completely been removed from the options list. The InvisaGIG 5G is never going to connect to band 13. This is like it never even existed. This is like it's completely gone from the spectrum. So I really like this idea, guys. And again, what I like about the InvisaGIG 5G is if you make a mistake, there's always an option to go back to the default. So you're never really going to mess with something that's going to completely break the internet. That is not going to happen. So if we go back to the band lock, just for example, and you can see my currently enabled bands right here. Band 13 is gone. Now let's just say I wanted to reset everything. All I have to do is click on 4, click on yes, and this is going to put all of my bands back to the factory state. So again, don't worry about tinkering and messing this up. Super easy. Now another option that I actually really like, especially where I am here in New York City, is the ability to actually lock onto a tower. I got about 6 towers around me, and sometimes, if like what I showed you earlier on in the video, I had to put the InvisaGIG 5G by the window and position those antennas to point outside of the window in order to lock onto the tower that literally I can see from my window. Otherwise, it just didn't want to connect. Well, with the ability to lock onto those towers, let's click on option number 6 here. With the ability to lock onto those towers, you can completely just decide, you know what, I'm just going to lock onto that one tower that I know is closest, that I know is going to give me the fastest speeds. Again, a game changer. T-Mobile does not want you to have these options on the provided gateways. They just don't want to do it. If they did it, I mean, it would just be insane. People would be able to really tinker and get faster speeds. Now, granted, usually it will connect to the stronger signal, but sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes you really just need to choose which tower you want to connect to. So if I click on 2, again, I'm only connecting to 5G because I have a lot of 5G in my area. But if you just want to search for LTE bands, you can do that. Let's click on the option to scan for the towers. So now we're back. It completed the search, and these are all the towers around me, and you can see what band, the signal strength, the quality, the tower ID. So this is a great way to really narrow down which antenna you want to connect to. So now all I have to do is select tower number 3 here, and then click on enter, and this is going to lock the InvisaGIG 5G onto that tower. So I'm going to do a speed test once I do that, but again, the speed tests right now are not something that I'm concerned with. I'm just showing you the settings. We've already shown you some amazing speeds, and again, it's something you really have to play around with and find that specific spot. And I'm going to show you a couple more settings that I really like. Now again, the great thing about it is, if you wanted to go back and you wanted to say, you know what, I don't want to lock onto that tower. I just want to let the InvisaGIG do its thing. Smart enough to know how to connect to the strongest signal. All you have to do is click on remove all tower locks, and that's just going to get rid of that tower that you locked onto. And if you wanted to repeat the process, you could go ahead and connect to another tower. Again, super simple. But let's just go ahead, go back to the main menu here. Now the next option that I want to show you is something that's actually pretty interesting, and this is the carrier profile selection APN. Now I've tried to play around with it just to kind of see if it made any difference. Now on my plan it hasn't really made a difference. In my area it hasn't really made a difference. There's a lot of variables where this might actually benefit you. So play around with it, check it out, see if it makes a difference to you. But right now you can see my current profile is the home internet with Wi-Fi calling, because I was using this exclusively for my home internet. And once I'm done with this video, I'm going to replace that T-Mobile G4AR gateway and reconnect my InvisaGIG 5G. I just think it's much better. I'm happier with the speeds. I mean, again, you're unlocking more speed potential thanks to that 2.5 gig port. But anyway, I just want to show you, you can allow the modem to select automatically the carrier profile. or you can select the profile yourself. So here's a list of all the profiles available. So we have a generic with manual APN. So if you wanted to put in your own APN, this is what you would choose. You have T-Mobile hotspot. Again, it all depends on the SIM card that you've placed inside of the InvisaGIG 5G, because the main purpose of this device is to allow you to access the internet. So if you have a plan, or you're with a company that only wants you to connect with certain devices like a hotspot device, you can switch that APN for the hotspot device, and it's going to ensure that your 5G connection is going to work with the InvisaGIG. So here's T-Mobile, phone, tablet with Wi-Fi calling. You also have business internet with static IP. There's Metro PCS, there's Verizon, Visible, TracFone, Mobile X, and a whole bunch of AT&T and Cricket APNs as well. So again, I am using this just with a regular phone SIM card. So as just a little bit of fun, I love speed tests. Let's go ahead and just do one more speed test before we switch out the APN and see if it makes any bit of a difference. So I'm still only getting about 100 down. Still just getting about 100 right now. Let's click on more info. Here's my latency down here, my upload, about 20-ish. Okay. So now we want to go back, and I'm going to switch it to a phone, tablet with Wi-Fi calling. All I have to do is click on 3 for the option, and now it's going to reboot, and then we're going to do another speed test. Now I'm not going to remove the InvisaGIG. It's going to stay in that same location, and then we'll do another speed test now that I've switched out the APN. Sometimes switching out the APN does give you a better connection. Sometimes switching out the APN does make it a little bit faster, and all of that good stuff. Again, it all depends on your plan and the SIM and a whole bunch of variables. Just play around with this. You're going to enjoy it. Trust me. Anyway, let's go back and wait for the InvisaGIG to boot up. Usually boots up pretty quickly. And then we'll do another speed test. So now we've restarted our modem. Let's just go ahead and do another speed test and see if that APN made any difference. Hopefully I'm wrong. And yep, you can see it jumped up to 170, a little bit faster. Let's see my latency. Latency seems to be about the same. So again, in my situation, in my scenario, it hasn't really helped me all that much. Depends where you are once again, so don't worry, just go ahead and play with it. Now, what kind of device would not be perfect without checking for updates? And I have heard, I'm going to do an update video once it comes out, but I have heard there's going to be a pretty exciting new update. So if it is pretty exciting once it's released, I'll do a follow-up video, guys. But here it is. You can check for firmware updates if you need to. Now 10 is local IP and multiple modem setups. Now if you have multiple devices like this, you could go ahead and set it up. So if you have a multi-unit, you could do it. Right now I just have a single unit, and if you wanted to change the IP address, you could go ahead and do that. So if you wanted to change the IP address, you could go ahead and do that. Now I'm not going to mess with that. Most people are going to connect this to a router. Right now it is connected directly to my laptop, but if you have this connected to a router, your router is going to do everything for you. InvisaGIG 5G does not provide Wi-Fi. You have to use some other source like a travel router, your main router, or of course you can plug it in directly to your Ethernet capable devices in order to provide internet. Just keep that in mind, guys. This is not a Wi-Fi device. So let's continue on and kind of check out the last couple of settings here. If you get any text messages, let's go ahead and search for text messages. I got no text messages, but again, you are using a SIM card. So if you want to check for texts, that's a great way to do it. Another thing that I actually really like, and that's the last setting here, is the watchdog setting. Now the WatchGuard setting is really nice, guys. It's going to check for an active internet connection. So if for some reason the net goes down or something goes wrong with it, and it notices there's no internet traffic, there's no internet, there's no data coming to the InvisaGIG 5G, after every 5, 10, 30 minutes, it's going to reboot the system. So I like this WatchGuard setting. I generally like to leave it just at about 15 minutes or so. So I'm just going to choose 15 minutes. And the last setting we have is a scheduled restart. I always think it's a great idea to restart devices. It's always better to kind of let them refresh themselves. So I usually just like to do a weekly restart personally. So I'm going to choose that on weekly. And then you can choose the day. Now the weekend, I'm usually on the internet. So let's just go ahead and do let's go do a hump day reboot. I like a hump day reboot personally. And I'm going to select the time. Let's go ahead and choose maybe like 2 o'clock in the morning. Let's do that. And we'll do 2:30. So there we go. Every time at 2:30 on hump day, it's going to reboot. And that's basically it. So as you can see, there's not a whole lot of settings. It wasn't all that bad. There's a lot of great settings in here that really let you customize this device, but it's really not overwhelming, am I right? It's not really something that's going to give you agita. It's not something that's going to make you think, hey, this device is super complicated. It's a really easy device. And if you didn't want to touch anything, I'm willing to bet you could just pop in your SIM and have a nice day. But if you're interested in buying this device, you already know how to tinker. Chances are you're living that outdoors life. You're living that RV life, and tinkering is what you do. You're all about that exploration. So with the InvisaGIG 5G, you can explore that mobile connection to your heart's content. And don't worry again about text-based settings. Very simple. You don't have to worry about a ting. So I really appreciate you guys watching. I'm super happy with the InvisaGIG. As I mentioned, I'm getting rid of my Tmobile G4 AR gateway, and I'm going to connect my InvisaGIG to my home internet, and I'm just going to let it rock. I'm just going to let it do its thing because I'm getting some really nice speeds with it. I appreciate you guys watching. Thumbs up, subscribe, check all my links down below. It helps me out, helps you out. If I can score a code, I'll throw that down there as well. Thanks for watching, guys. Appreciate it, and I'll catch you in another video.